Hello, audience. Welcome to the Shorts That Are Not Pants Film Festival 2021. I'm Shelagh Rowan-Legg, a member of the programming team, and I'm delighted to welcome to our studio the writer, director, and producer of the short film I'll Sit, Suzannah Mirghani. Suzannah, welcome.
Hi,
Coming
thank you
to
for
us
having
all
me.
the way from Qatar, so we're very thrilled to have you here, even in a virtual sense.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I did request to do the Q&A for this short because I really loved it. It's a longer short at 20 minutes, but I really like it when we can have the opportunity to dive deep into a story and really get enveloped in it. Um, this story is really based on a lot of things that you're aware of in your culture that happened. How was it to try to find sort of a film dramatic way to tell a story that of things that really happen?
Yeah, I mean the situation is already kind of filled with drama. It's a an arranged marriage, so it's something that someone else has chosen for this young girl, Nafisa. And so already that situation is fraught with drama, even though it's an everyday normal occurrence in Sudan. And it's not necessarily seen as a bad thing because everyone who is arranging the marriage are family members and people who care deeply for the young girl. So they see it as a form of protection and basically a good thing. So to try to convince people that this is, maybe the agency of the young girl, or maybe a person's right to say yes or no should count as well. So, and it's a very complex situation because, arranged marriages in Sudan aren't necessarily like they are in the West. They're not necessarily between two individuals. They're two families really that are getting together as well. So it becomes a family decision and a collective decision. So I wanted to just place that as the center of the story. But then obviously the cotton fields, we have a history of colonial exploitation of the cotton fields in Sudan. And that is another situation that's pregnant with politics, and you can't get away from it. We live in this post-colonial, we still have the scars of colonialism. At one point, the young man sees the train tracks, even though there's no train. And to me, this is like literally a scar in the topography. It's a scar in the landscape. So yeah, sorry, I went on for a little bit too long
Oh,
there.
no, that's great. I mean, it brings me to something else I wanted to talk about is that, people in Canada are going to be watching this. And of course, Canadians, we're a big mosaic of people, but obviously, especially, Westerners, white people are going to have a very specific attitude, often a racist colonial attitude towards like looking down on the idea of arranged marriages. So, and the idea is like, our attitude is, or our supposed attitude is, all arranged marriages are terrible. But then I've also heard arguments of, actually there's some advantages to it. So how do you hope audiences who might look on this as something quote unquote primitive, how you might want them to understand the situation in this culture?
Yeah, well, my intention is not to point fingers, and my intention is really not to make an overly loaded statement about arranged marriages, but to have the audience live through the young girl and to see the whole situation through her eyes. And really, it's about personal freedom, and it's about a person's voice and right to stand up for themselves. So even though arranged marriages may continue, a girl still has the right to say yes or no. So, and I think, and in Sudan, it really should be ideally that the girl does get to say no, even though the arranged marriage remains. But obviously, we know that there's a lot of pressure, a lot of familial pressure on young girls. So that wasn't my point. My point was to really just go through the eyes of this young girl and to have her stand up for herself, not just against the arranged marriage, but also against this encroaching neoliberal business as well.
I mean, one of the things I really like about the film is there's no villains in this story. Nobody's a bad guy per se. Everybody's doing what they think is right, even if our perception might be different. Even the grandmother, in a weird way, I kind of understood her logic. She's like,
Yeah.
if you marry an older man, he's going to die soon, and then you kind of are free. So how, I mean, I assume that was your intention. Nobody is a bad guy in this story per se.
No, absolutely not. I think everyone has very clear reasons. They may be selfish, they may be selfish reasons, but everyone has a very clear reason and to do what they think is right. Mm-hmm. So the young man comes with development, even though it might be exploitative, but his intention is really could be taken as a good thing. And the same, exactly what you said. The grandmother it's a very twisted logic. I really like to think of Elsit as a twisted feminist because she just works within the bounds of her culture. She doesn't want to exceed tradition, but within that, she kind of finds the loopholes for her granddaughter. So, marry an old man, he'll die and you'll be free. It's like it's logical. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And obviously the parents just want the best for her. And this is a very, very eligible bachelor. There's this handsome, young, wealthy man, wealthy businessman, So yes, so I don't think that there's anyone who's necessarily a villain, but I do think that everyone has a selfish form of control. Everyone wants a little bit of control. And unfortunately, the control over this young girl, both her body and her mind.
Mm-hmm. How did you find the process of, writing and directing? What was the process for you to find the right scenes to convey the story, the beats, and how to find I found it was I loved it. Had a very steady rhythm to it. It's like we were being led on this road and we were shown all the stops on the way. What was the process for you to find those moments and those beats to lead us along?
Well, I'm glad you said that because the first edit was about half an hour long. And so I really had to pare it down a lot along with my editor, Katab. But I wrote this for a while. And I think the script really has to be that first initial roadmap for the film. So I worked on the script quite a bit, I would say, for over a year, maybe in script writing workshops and so on. And the script actually turned into a feature that I had to take a part out of it to make Elsit. So Elsit is actually a proof of concept for my first feature. But I'm happy you said that. I'm happy that those signs worked towards building the story, and I really just wanted to build it. And especially because Nafisa doesn't speak, because she doesn't have a voice, and because she doesn't say anything in the film, I think visually you had to really understand where you were in the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly there's a lot of features that have come out of short films, but the challenge is always to still make a short film, which you did quite successfully. With Nafisa, she's, as you say, she doesn't speak, and yet the whole story is about her not having a voice, which obviously you make that clear. So what was the process of casting? Because this is obviously a very hard part to cast for because she really doesn't have any dialogue. She's just a presence.
Yeah, well, casting in Sudan is difficult from the get-go because we do not have a film industry in Sudan, and we don't have ready actors or anyone who is just ready to audition. So when we did hold auditions, especially for the young actors, when we held auditions, everyone is a first-time actor. Everyone is just trying their luck. This is for the young actors. Everyone is just trying their luck. And we had a few recent successes with Sudanese films. So I think there was a little bit of, there was something in the air that people wanted to maybe try this out, this acting thing, The older actors are all stage actors. So they all work in theater. So they understand the concept of acting. They understand all of that, but they haven't necessarily acted for film. So that's also a whole different process as well for them. But I was just about to say that we had a military Islamist government for 30 years that banned creative expression, including film, and destroyed the cinemas. And it was only in the last 2 years that we had a revolution and we went to a civilian partnership government, and we were encouraged actually to make this film. We were given all, green lights for everything to make this film, which was such a pleasure. After all of those years of stifled creative expression. And then, I don't know if you saw the news this week, but the military has taken it again. And we are really, really just worried for the future of the country, obviously, and for the future of creative expression as well and filmmaking.
I mean, certainly, your film and other recent films we've seen, and stories that come from that part of the world. We want them. The world is better the more stories we have and the more voices. So we're all watching and hoping that the people are okay. What do you think of what do you personally think about the motivations of Alcit? As we said, her logic is twisted, but it's there, and she's working within this. Do you feel that this is Nafisa and her generation, are they privy to what's going on in the rest of the world and differences? Do they feel like they want to break? Because there's a hint at the end that Nafisa has her eye on somebody else. There's another young man that she likes, but maybe her parents wouldn't arrange that marriage. Are they trying to be different, or do they just want to do what they want to do, and they don't really care about what's going on outside their own small world?
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard in Sudan, in an extremely conservative and traditional society, to step outside the rules and the bounds of your culture. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you can just say, oh, I'm leaving my family and this town, and because there's no support for you. You cannot, as a young girl, just decide to leave it all behind and run away. This idea of running away is a very Western concept, to just be able to pick up and work in McDonald's or whatever it is. So there's very few options, and it's very limited, and that's why you have to fight to change whatever it is you're in. So that's what I really like about the beyond the end. So in El Cid, it stops at a particular part, and in my feature it goes a little bit beyond, just to show how it's possible to still respect the elders and respect tradition, but also to say that change happens, and we are a new generation, and we think differently, and we have the internet, and we have mobile phones, and it's not so insular anymore. So we are respectful, but we respectfully disagree.
And what was the experience like? I asked about your process, but also filming, given that the film industry in the Sudan is so young, or at least it had a long period where nothing was happening, not just with the actors, but with the crew. Was it difficult? Was it easy? How was that process?
I was so pleasantly surprised. I cannot tell you how surprised I was, because I'm currently based in Qatar, in Doha, in Qatar. And so I had to travel to Sudan to make the film. And I didn't know what to expect from the Sudanese film industry at the time. And what I found was a highly professional, highly motivated, enthusiastic group of camera, lighting, production, art. They all work for television shows and for commercials. So even though it's not cinema, it's not film, they have huge experience in their craft, and I think that shows visually in the film as well. This is all their work.
I mean, we would never know that it wasn't done by people. I mean, well, they do it every day, and there are skills that can transfer between commercial and television to cinema, especially in the short form, because that's likely what they're used to. The young girl playing Nafisa, is she planning on continuing with acting?
She is, absolutely. Also directing. So the first thing she said to me after the whole process wrapped up, she goes, "I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed acting, but I kind of liked what you did as well, like creating this whole film." So she has her eye. She's thinking forward. She's thinking ahead. She also got a little bit of backlash in Sudan for acting, in the first place, which is not, that's not the outcome that you would like. But, people wondering where she's going at 4 a.m., where we were shooting, at late at night, and, why is she coming back so late? And those are the kind of social issues that really have to we have to clear that. We have to clear the air, with the communities and with the neighborhoods when we're shooting, to say that we're not doing something bad. Just because a girl comes home at 4 a.m. doesn't mean something bad. It means that we've been working really hard.
Yeah. I guess, if people don't know how a film is made, they don't understand it. And I mean, of course, in North America right now, in America, I should say, they're fighting to not go home at 4 a.m. Because so it's all these different, it's amazing, the differences that come with making an artwork such as this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. We really loved your film. I'm sure our audience enjoyed it, and we're very much looking forward to a feature of this in the future. We'll keep an eye out for it, and other work from you in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.